Here's the latest news on Apple. There are three things I want to drill into. Number one, address the rumors on China discontinuing sales of the iPhone. Number two, the highlights from the latest Apple event. And number three, the update on the stock. Let's dive in. Okay, number one, there was a rumor flying around that China was going to discontinue sales of the iPhone, and the share price dropped from 189 to 177, about a 6% drop in about a day. I even heard this and I was like, you gotta be kidding me, what's going on? Well, quickly did some homework and found out this is on Reuters and CNN. They actually had good news for us. This is from China government officials. They said, verbatim, China has not issued laws, regulations, or policy documents that prohibit the purchase and use of foreign brand phones such as Apple's. Okay, we can breathe easy here, but this is a little bit of a wake-up call for Apple, and I'm glad they're taking action on next steps. The reason is, and I knew this, it was pretty high, 19% of Apple's revenue actually comes from China. So if they discontinued some product, this could be a big problem for Apple. And this is a pretty alarming percentage. 95% of the iPhones, AirPods, MacBooks, and iPads are actually manufactured in China. So this definitely tells us that Apple has to make some changes. So on that note, Apple is actually moving the production of the MacBook to Vietnam and the iPhone to India. So that's a great sign there. I did drill into this article here from Forbes. They talked about some of the pros and cons. And just to summarize some of the pros, these pros really relate to a little bit of Vietnam and India, but one of the cons is more specific to Vietnam. So with moving to Vietnam and India, the workforce, and this is from Forbes, the workforce is young, stable, well-educated, and sizable. In other words, there's a lot of people ready to work, so that's good. Now, number two, getting materials. These are the necessary materials that go into the production of these products. A lot of these materials come from China. And fortunately, both Vietnam and India are in close proximity to that country. And number three, both Vietnam and India are very open to the US bringing business to their countries. There's a lot of people looking for work, looking for gainful employment, and that's a big win-win for, both the US and of course these other countries that can help us out. The one con I have to drill into is related to Vietnam. They did state that they're very similar to China, where they don't enforce intellectual property rights. As far as the IP rights, especially in the tech and the hardware and duplicating it, yes, you might see some competitors trying to do that against Apple. But to be honest with you, for those of you that are Apple users, trying to replicate the quality of those products and keep them at a low price, that's quite a feat. When it comes to stuff like, let's say, trying to replicate a purse or a shirt or something like that, yeah, that's a little bit easier feat. But in this case, Apple, I think you're in a pretty good spot. Yes, there is some worry there with the IP, but I wouldn't see a big concern in this case. But in summary, as investors of Apple, I think it's good to keep our fingers on the pulse of manufacturing around the globe. I think the move to Vietnam and India is a really smart play. I'd like to see a little more diversification over the coming years, but it is a step in the right direction to have 95% of production in China. Yeah, that it got that far. I'm a little surprised, but this is just, again, a little heads up, like, hey, you better be making some moves here. So fortunately, they're already on it. Okay, let's move on to the Apple event. There are really two products I want to drill into here. You have the iPhone 15, which also the iPhone 15 Pro. Here are four key highlights I want to mention. One is there's a new powerful chip that makes this phone even faster. There's also a customizable action button. I actually was watching a demo on YouTube. You should go check that out, but that's kind of a fun feature. Then you have an upgraded camera, which is always nice. And this is the big one. They have finally moved to USB-C. So for those of you that have multiple cables because of the multiple different devices, like me, I have multiple products in my home that have a USB-C, and then I have my iPhone, which requires a different cable. Well, now I only need one cable. Thank you, Apple. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the Apple Watch 9. I do not use this product, but I know a lot of people love it. And they are coming out with a new, faster chip like the iPhone, and then there will be an updated GPS. And then the third point here is a fun detail to highlight on this Apple Watch. It will be the first Apple product to be carbon neutral. So the leather straps are being swapped out for what's called a fine woven material, which is essentially recycled materials. So good on you, Apple, for going carbon neutral. Okay, let's touch on the third point, which would be the stock. So jumping into Tykr, we can see Apple is still on sale. The score is 61 out of 100 and margin of safety is 75%. We can see the share price is now at 176. Fair value, still close to 400, so that's looking great. When you scroll down, you can actually see that drop. It went from, I think I said 188 or 189, down to that 177. To me, all this does is tell us we have ourselves a buying opportunity. I'm a shareholder of Apple. I might take this time to just buy some more. These are called stockpiling events. We like events where the share price drops, but it's not a major event happening at the company. A great example of this was the recession we kind of went through over the last, it was a year and a half. It was actually between November of 2021 through March of 2023. The market just went down. We had high inflation rates. That's a stockpiling event. Before that would have been the COVID dip of 2020. It was really February, March, April is a quick down, 30% in the market, a quick up. I remember taking big advantage of that point and buying more shares in my stocks. And prior to that would have been, gosh, that's going back to 2008. You had your recession, your global recession from the housing crash. So in other words, this is a small little stockpiling event, a little bit of news here with Apple, but nothing alarming. That's going to be like a long-term problem for investors like us. Again, manufacturing footprint, we need to expand it, but China is still selling iPhones. So we see this little drop, time to buy more. So there's the latest update on Apple. What I'm doing is I'm adding this to my Tykr watch list. That way, if that summary that's at on sale, if it changes to watch or overpriced, I will be notified. Of course, if that score changes, which is at 61, and that margin of safety changes, which is at 75, if anything changes on this stock while it sits on my Tykr watch list, I get notified. I love that feature about Tykr. I can kind of set it and forget it. But this way I can keep track of the business, make some moves. If something changes, then I'd look at selling some shares if something went negative. But so far, things are looking really positive for Apple. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to see more like it, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to find other stocks like Apple, we welcome you to join Tykr for free.